Welcome to the third episode of Conversations with Kone. I'm your host, and my guest today is Chad Soda Milne. Chad is an ICs player from Toronto, Canada. He is an artist majoring in drawing and painting at OCAD-U, that's Ontario College of Art and Design University. In today's episode, we'll be discussing Soda's YouTube channel, which is Soda SSBM, which combines melee and painting, the state of the Italian melee scene, and comparisons between melee in Europe and melee in North America. Before we delve into the conversation, you can follow me on @ConvoCone and @Team Heir for updates on the podcast series, as well as any information on Heir 4. You can follow Chad on @Soda_SSBM. Let's start the conversation. Hi, Chad.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going well. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm just taking a break here from my paintings. Got a little bit of a gap.
Okay, cool. Before we delve into the actual paintings, do a little bit of background information on yourself, Chad. Whereabouts are you actually from?
So I'm actually from Windsor, Ontario, which is just a border city just outside of Toronto. It's about a 3-hour drive, but it's a good place for melee. It's a small scene, but it's a lot of fun. So yeah, Windsor it is.
Okay, Windsor is. So that's Windsor, Canada.
Yeah.
So we've been playing in Canada for a while, I'm guessing? Or are you kind of new to the scene?
No, actually, I'm kind of new. I'm just under 2 years, or maybe it might be exactly 2 years for me since I've been to my first event.
Okay, so is that postdocs?
Yes, that's postdoc.
Okay, so I like to categorize our guests into kind of Gen 1 through to Gen 5. So you are officially Gen 4, Generation 4, Gen 4.
Gen 4.
Gen 4 postdocs kid. Oh yeah.
That's me. All right.
All right. Okay, so a few other things before we get into the kind of the nitty gritty here. The tag, Soda, where did it come from?
So Soda is actually my middle name. It says it on.
Really?
Yeah, it says it on all my
Wow, that's
documents.
awesome.
Yeah, it was my mother's maiden name, and that name was actually originally Italian, but I don't really have a translation or anything. I'm pretty sure it just means soda anyway. So yeah, it's just also a baseball nickname. So it's kind of always been my nickname.
What do you mean by baseball nickname?
I played baseball for a while as a kid, and sometimes in sports they just assign nicknames, calling people last name.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it was kind of something specific to do with baseball, because across in Europe, obviously, we're not as big fans of baseball. So I was just checking I hadn't missed out something there. Okay,
No.
That's awesome. That's one, a really cool middle name.
Thank you.
And two, a very cool tag as well. Moving from the tag, is it ICs you mean?
Yes, it is. I'm ice climbers through and through.
All right, and any particular reason we chose ICs?
I think the first time I went to go play friendlies with somebody that wasn't my younger brother, I played Sheik and kept getting bodied, and then I played ICs and kept it even. So I'm like, yeah, ICs are for me. Just immediate success.
There we go. Okay, so fit what you wanted, started doing well with it, thought you'd stay with the ICs.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool, nice. A little bit of background there then, and I think we should kind of move on into the actual paintings. And for those who haven't checked these out yet, have a look at Soda's YouTube channel, Soda SSBM, where I actually recently caught 2 paintings you've done, which is Home Field Advantage and Big Fish in a Small Pond. Can you just explain to the listeners the idea behind this project?
Yeah, of course. So what I'm doing with my project right now is I'm trying to focus on the narratives of Melee, less like not gameplay, but rather the stories of each individual player. So my goal is to kind of capture a moment that represents the narratives and to use my titles that are easily accessible and everyone will know the narratives relating to it. So it's kind of it's kind of simple when it comes down to why they're named what they're named, because you get an immediate idea of what story I'm trying to tell.
Yeah, for our listeners, Home Field Advantage is a Wobbles narrative.
Yes, it's obviously as an Ice Climbers player, I'm a fan of Wobbles, but even before that, you kind of hear the idea of Texas Wobbles, and he always seems to perform a little bit better in Texas. So I gathered some stats that back that up, and it kind of just worked out perfectly with the painting that was from Battle of the Five Gods, which was in Texas.
Okay, and was there a certain match or a certain set chosen for that actual composition?
Yep, it was Wobbles versus West Balls, which was losers quarters, game one. And Wobbles finished the game with a handoff combo that is, it made for a good picture. Let's call it that.
I know the match, I know the set, it's super cool. Like, that is the moment you chose to tell Wobbles' basically story, I guess, or part of his story within the Smash community.
Yeah, exactly. And it was great. Actually, during the interview, I asked Wobbles if he approved of my choice. And he said yes. He said that was a highlight of it for him. So that was...
Hell yeah, that's awesome, isn't it?
It's quite the feeling, yeah, of course.
So, just from what you just said there, do you not discuss with the actual subject beforehand?
So that's actually been changing. The idea was to use Wobbles first because he's kind of a bigger name and just to kind of get some interest. And my thought process was, if I already have this painting done, he's probably going to be down to do an interview with me. And he probably would have been either way, knowing that he's a nice guy, but...
Yeah, I've met Wobbles, met him at Beast 6, and he is a very cool, very nice guy.
Yes, and then so in the future paintings in the second one, I actually have talked with the player beforehand. So it kind of makes... I'm kind of experimenting with that.
Okay, which I guess what you just said there with Wobbles is you went with Wobbles as he's a big name, and I guess you were trying to create a little bit of attention or engagement with your first painting. And in contrast, the second painting is Big Fish in a Small Pond. Do you want to expand on that one a little? Yeah, of course. So Big Fish in a Small Pond is a painting about Isdar. Oh, I said his name wrong. Sorry there, mate. Isdar. Hey, let's practice that myself and for our listeners as well. Zar.
Zar. D-S-A-R.
Yeah, I always pronounce it the other way like yourself did initially. So it's Izzar.
Yes, that's it. That's the one.
Izzar. Okay.
And so he's a Greek player.
Yeah.
And I met him at a tournament here in Italy. And what I kind of really was attached to is how small the scene was in Greece and how he was the best and he was traveling and he was winning. And just kind of how he's typically a big fish in a small pond, but he's actually breaking away from that. So I kind of wanted to highlight both that he is and isn't within that narrative. So it was I actually really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, and for those who haven't actually gone to listen to that interview with Izzar, or who don't even know who Izzar is because he's not actually that well known within the EU community, I'd recommend listening to it because I learned a lot myself about the Greek scene. I'd obviously caught a few posts on Reddit about the Greek scene. I'm actually part of the Greek group, but it's not really a scene that we find traveling in Europe very much, and there'll be a lot of listeners who don't know much about Izzar, and I think the choice and the narrative there is very cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I got a couple comments when I posted the interview about how a North American player is teaching the EU scene about the EU scene. And that's a great comment. That felt really good because that's kind of my goal here is to kind of expand. So
it's actually very similar to the goal with these podcasts from my point of view, is trying to tell more stories about the scene, because we find a lot of the time that the stories we hear are the stories of a select few normally top players. So I love the fact that you started with Wobbles, but then you've also kind of moved on to highlighting other areas of just the Smash community.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually went into it with the idea of rotating between top player and unknown. But I think that idea is kind of expanded on to just rotating countries. So I think I'll be able to do that rather well in these next coming months. So I'm really, really excited.
Do you have plans in place for the future?
Yeah, I don't want to give away anything that's not confirmed, but the next one will be with EMG Nightmare, who's a Canadian and who's been very helpful. And we're going to talk about community and sub-communities with the Hyenas, which is the group of Canadians that are always yelling in the crowd. So it's going to be good, I hope.
Well, put it this way, I don't know a massive amount about that myself. So from my point of view, and I hope for the listeners as well, they're intrigued to tune into that one and obviously look forward to the painting itself. And actually saying that about the painting, we haven't actually delved into the paintings too much just yet. What do you do medium-wise? How do you go about choosing the composition and so on?
Yeah, so the first thing I do is I actually task the combo. And I'm not the best at these. I'm not practical tasks or anything. I'm not one of those guys that are really good at it. But I like to kind of create the connection and kind of get a thought process of what each player's doing. And then from there, I pause the game at what I think is the moment that I'm trying to really capture. And I just rotate from there kind of on 20XX so I can move up and down, and I have freedom to completely rotate 360. I just kind of do that, and I aim for a composition that I like, which is usually going to be looking up towards the main subject matter.
Yeah, and when you found that, I guess, perfect image or perfect composition, what are the steps from that point to the actual end of the painting being completed?
Yeah, so from there, I actually project the image onto my canvas, which is something I'm new to doing, but I think it helps a lot actually, especially with like Yoshi's story, tiny little details. But so I project it from there, and it's an oil painting, so it's kind of time consuming, and I paint rather thickly, so that even adds to the time. These two paintings have ranged between 8 and 15 hours.
Yeah, and that's a lot.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. And the sizes are ranging also, but just the simplest way to put it is my goal is for it to be bigger than the typical CRT screen, because it makes it so much different from the gameplay. So that's, as long as it's bigger than a CRT, it's a canvas I'll paint on.
Okay, CRT come in range of sizes. What CRT size we talking?
I'm talking the average that you see at these at your locals or your events. Anything bigger than like if my canvas is bigger than 15 inches or
bigger than the small portables. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want, because I feel like on average you play on the small portables. So
yeah, I like that. In terms of this project then, is there a particular end goal or an ambition with it?
The end goal would to be having at least 14 paintings. I kind of want to rotate through the most popular characters, and since I'm so attached to the interviews, I want to save some characters for specific people. So the goal is to actually just get all 14 done with the people that I kind of have in mind.
I'm guessing you're not going to give us any sort of insights to who those are, Chad.
I can give one. I'm looking into the Swedish Luigi Jariden. He's
Jariden?
Yes, Jariden.
Yeah. He's actually from Switzerland.
Oh, I said that backwards. My bad.
It's okay, dude. It's fine.
Yeah, so I'm actually looking into him because I think there's a lot of interesting things I can talk about. And he's a character that is Luigi I didn't know until I really came across him.
Yeah, well, Jar is probably a less well-known and maybe somewhat underestimated player in Europe, but is actually phenomenally good. And again, it's another scene, the Swiss scene, that doesn't get as much attention. So I think that is a great subject.
Yeah, and he seemed rather down when I spoke with him at Beast. So I'm excited to. I'll get there eventually, you know.
Yeah, that's cool. Last question about the paintings then, and this actually came from my wife. I was watching. I think we were looking at Big Fish in a Small Pond. And she comes from an art background herself and absolutely loved them. And then her question was, what's he doing with them?
Well, first of all, you got to thank your wife for me. I definitely appreciate any of those comments, especially from art background. But right now, I'm getting a body of work. So the only way that I'm really giving away prints is if I'm at a tournament, I will have prints on me. And I've been doing money matches for the prints.
All right. Okay.
So it's once I have an actual body of works and multiple characters, I will look into selling them online, the prints. But right now, the only way is to actually come up to me at a tournament. So keeping it simple.
Okay. And are the two you've done so far money matchable?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Are you kind of confident in your skills as well then?
I mean, I think I lost more than I won at Beast. But I was playing a lot of Ice Climbers Dittos because of the Icy's paintings, and
okay, yeah,
I expected to lose against Nintendo, so, but I'm happy to give them away, and I'm happy that people were interested. It was a lot of fun, and
I feel really bad for you now, Chad, because you're going to go to your next event, like EU event, and there's just going to be people crashing you to try and get your paintings. Money matches galore.
I hope so. I really like that because so what I'm doing is if I win, you pay for the print, and if you win, the print's for free.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
that's kind of what I'm going with now. So I'm having a lot of fun with it.
I hope you're doing a lot of training as well then.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. Let's kind of segue on into our next topic, which is the state of the Italian scene. Now, this might sound a little bit odd to our listeners, especially since we've already kind of alluded to the fact, well, not alluded because you are from Canada and are Canadian. I guess I caught on to your paintings through the actual Italian melee. I think it's largely melee group. And I'm part of all the major EU groups, all the country groups in Europe, just for air purposes. I noticed the first painting and commented on it. And I noticed the second one, I did again comment on it because I just thought they were awesome. And then obviously I kind of was like, what is this guy doing in Italian melee? So why are you in Italy?
So I'm actually I'm technically studying abroad right now. But what it is, it's a off-campus residency. So even though I'm spending time in Florence, Italy, I'm still a part of my Canadian school, like we already mentioned, OCAT. And so because I'm here and I actually get a lot of freedom, so that's why I chose to paint melee instead of painting statues or whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been living in Italy since August. And I'm here in May. So it's just 2 semesters.
Can you speak any Italian?
I've got enough to get by at all of the stores, and I'm okay in that sense, and I understand it better than I speak it. But no.
I was just wondering, I kind of taken a bit of a pot shot there because you're in Italy and you had the Italian middle name. So maybe thinking there was a family, background there and you may have been taught from a young age or
no.
Obviously not at all. Okay, so since you've been in Italy, obviously you've kind of tried to be part of the Italian melee scene. What is the actual state of Italian Smash? Because it really isn't comparatively to the UK or to Sweden, France, Germany, Netherlands. It isn't a scene we hear very much about even within Europe. So how have you found it?
So to sum it up in one word, it's kind of widespread. You've got a bunch of pockets of people that are playing, whether it be here in Florence, there's a few in Milan and Rome. There's everyone's a little bit spread out. That's kind of how it's happening right now. But it's a lot of classic guys. A lot of the older guys are still playing. People have been playing probably an average of 5 years. And anyone newer than that you kind of take a second look because everyone's just been around for so long. Tournaments are a little scarce right now. I think that's kind of one of the things that is holding the scene back.
From what you've experienced so far, from actual tournaments in person and obviously being part of conversations online with Italian Smash, is there any particular reason why you think there hasn't been very many new players, or maybe there's a lack of tournaments taking place in Italy?
When it comes to the lack of tournaments, getting around in Italy actually isn't as cheap as it is in other countries. Even just like the train tickets, they're a little bit more expensive than average, and then dealing with some housing because the venues aren't really in the city. So right now there isn't a TO that just has a big apartment that can do a tournament, and the fact that they have to turn towards these bigger venues is expensive, and it's hard to get everyone there. So it's a little bit of geography.
Yeah, which is interesting because public transport here in the UK is pretty terrible. Like train tickets, I was looking into going from the Midlands, so the middle of England basically, to the Scottish borders, which is about 3-hour train ticket. Return is £100.
Oh.
So from a Brit's point of view, public transport isn't great financially, and we do hire venues that are costly, but I think the scenes, especially North American side and in the large EU communities, we've got to the point now where you expect that, you expect to travel, you expect to pay a higher venue fee, you expect not to get housing. We're moving away from this notion of, with Smash, you have to stay in someone's house or on someone's floor. Definitely moving into using the likes of Airbnb, hotels, cheaper hostels and so on. Any reason why you think Italy has kind of maybe stayed behind a little?
Well, I think it has to do with the old school players a little bit, right? There's the old school players, and it's just what they're used to, and they haven't really caught up. And that's in game and in scene, if I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of them still have the old school style. But the other thing here in Italy, it's illegal to give out prize money. It's considered gambling, which I've done my research and I'm realizing it is. That's a factor in multiple of these European countries that I didn't know about before coming. That's kind of a hindrance for the scene here, just because no one's really going to step up and create an organization like Le French Melee. I listened to your last podcast. That would be like something they would need, but they just don't really have the numbers for that either.
So 2 questions there from that. One, what are the numbers?
Tournament I was at had 28 people, but I believe there's closer to like 50 active players right now, 50 to 75 maybe.
Okay, so large enough scene, just not actually turning up regularly enough.
And very spread out.
And then obviously the next one is the likes of myself. I've been a community leader and a TO in the UK since like 2003. And then you've got other major TOs and community leaders such as Mark in the Netherlands, and you've got Lolex in Sweden, Usleon and so forth in Germany. And then obviously France have organized themselves into Le French Melee. And Norway with the likes of Howie. I think Norway Smash Norge is actually like Le French Melee. It's a kind of legalized entity. And obviously to get that set up, you need community leaders and TOs that put in energy and effort and time. Is Italy just lacking that? Like lacking community leaders, lacking TOs on that scale?
On that scale, yes. When it comes to like individual leaders and community members, there are people that are willing to put in some of that effort. It's just a matter of the time, it feels. Somebody like Dax, who's been a player around forever, really nice guy, but he's a busy man. You know, he's really busy, and I think the scene's kind of just learning not to rely on Dax right now.
Is there anyone else who is stepping up? And the reason I ask this is we have an organization called Smash Europe, which was created with the intention of growing and, well, obviously Smash in Europe, and also getting information out there more about what is happening in the European scene. And then we actually have within Smash Europe, we've got, you know, we use a back room area to discuss and coordinate as tournament organizers between ourselves. And mainly it's to collaborate and work together and improve the scene. But we don't have any Italian representative in there. Is there anyone you would recommend us to talk to?
I would definitely say Avenger Angel. He's another classic Smasher that's been around a while. I think he's got a lot of influence in the scene, and he's also busy, but not as busy as Dax from what I've seen. So I think Avenger Angel would be able to kind of give a hand. And kind of to plug myself a little bit, I'm actually I'm going to host my own event before I leave. And I'm working with 2 younger players that I'm kind of teaching what I know about TOing. And because I helped run locals in Toronto.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm kind of teaching them as well. And if that catches on and everything goes well, I would definitely recommend those 2 also. And we'll see how that goes, but I might send a message your way in a couple months.
Yeah, please, because I personally, and obviously, you know, the likes of Smash Europe, we want to grow, you know, European Smash as much as possible. And it does feel like Italy's a little bit loose in that sense, and to integrate it into events a little bit more would be great. And you mentioned Avenger Angel there, and I think just during these podcasts, it'd be nice just to allow listeners to become a little bit more informed about each community. So in terms of Italian Smash, I know a handful of players in terms of their reputation and how long they've been in the scene. So you've got the likes of the most notable and probably the most famous in European history is Alduin. For those who don't know who that was or who that is, he was a, I don't even, I'm saying is and was, does he still play?
I think the last tournament he's been around is a year ago, so he's kind of inactive right now.
He's been inactive for years. We're talking about a guy who was top 5 in Europe with his Falco back in the day. So Renaissance of Smash 4, which was a tournament hosted by Helios in Sweden, and Renaissance of Smash was kind of like the pre-Beast series, and Helios was probably the leading European TO at the time. I think there was about 132 participants there, and Alduin finished second. And then Beast 2. He finished 5th. So there's no doubt that this guy was kind of top 5, definitely top 10 when he was active. And then other players I know of are the likes of Serrateur. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly.
I think so. Or Serrateur, maybe just with a rolled R. I'm not entirely sure either.
Oh, nice. See, there's your Italian coming through, Chad.
There we go.
There we go. And then we've got Avenger Angel, Dax, and Elaine.
Yeah.
Oh, Alan.
I think it's Elaine.
I think it's Elaine as well. I met him. He was actually at Beast 6, but he wasn't at the last Beast. So are they still the main Italian players? Obviously, Aldwin's inactive. Are the others active? I
think they're still the main players. Everyone that you've listed is active. I haven't personally played with Elaine yet, but I know Elaine's still around.
I think Elaine's actually, he crops up a lot in the Swiss scene. So I don't know if I've got a feeling he's actually Swiss, but he comes across the northern Italian events.
Possibly.
Which is maybe why you haven't caught up with him as much.
Yeah. The other one is Overlord, who's been around a really long time. He lives in Rome. He's very enthusiastic about the scene and getting to tournaments. And yeah, I think he housed SFAT when SFAT was doing his European travels a few years back. Because I spoke with SFAT at Beast, and he made sure I said hello to some of these guys. So that was pretty cool.
Who is, I guess, current best in Italy, or the kind of top 3?
Avenger Angel and Serrateur kind of feel a little bit above the rest. I'd probably put them in their own level of top 2. And then there's guys like Dax. There's a Peach player named Selkie, and that's another tier. And it's very tiered, I feel, right now.
What's interesting is that these guys have been around for years,
yeah,
and we see them so irregularly that it's very difficult to actually tell how good they are compared to the rest of the scene. And interestingly enough, this is just a side note, is I hosted a tournament back in 2010 called Smash Needs You, which at the time was a large European tournament. And I actually hosted most of these guys at my house, but their English was so poor. And sorry guys, if you're listening now and your English is better, I can't actually remember who stayed, which is awful. There was about 8 of them, and they stayed with us for, I think it was 3 or 4 days. And I would love to actually chat to them now and find out who stayed and, kind of thank them a little bit more for coming. So if any of you guys are listening and you did come and you did stay with myself at Smash Needs You, get in contact. It'd be nice to kind of catch up a little. Other than that, is there any kind of newer players or new blood coming through, or is it still the old guard in Italy?
I think there are some newer players that are slowly kind of showing up. There's somebody that I train with. His name is Malekith. That's his nickname, and he's very into the scene, and he's always trying to get better. And then there's a player from Rome named Menega, who is very technical. He's your typical 20XX Fox that Italy doesn't really have. So he already stands out, and I believe he's probably been playing as long as I have, 2 years. But keeping up with the guys after 5 years is pretty impressive.
Which is, so a couple of names for us to kind of watch there and see how they develop over the coming years, I guess. I think we've pretty much covered the Italian scene as much as we can. So let's move on, Chad, to our last topic, which is comparison between kind of the European and the North American scenes. I obviously know that you've not been to many European tournaments. What have you actually managed to get to so far?
So I've actually just been to the Italian event that I mentioned that was streamed by Leva. That was, or Geeky Goon Squad. That was earlier or late last year, and then I went to Beast this past weekend. So I haven't really been doing or going to too many tournaments. Kind of travel costs. I'm still in school, so
of course. But you've made Beast, so Beast gives you a good benchmark because it is one of the leading events in Europe. So the largest Smash event. Although note Lolex, not the largest Melee event. I've always got to get that in there. But you've been to Beast. What have you been to in North America? You mentioned your local Toronto scene. Have you been outside of that?
So most of my play has come in Toronto. I went to the 2 majors that were there, EGLX and Gommel. Okay. And then for
Gommel's a great benchmark as well.
Exactly.
Obviously, yeah.
And then I was at like two weeklies a week. I was a busy smasher. So
Okay, so if we used Beast then and we used Gommel,
yeah.
we got two majors, Canadian major and a European major. Any similarities, or I guess let's concentrate on the differences. What would you say the differences are, or kind of like the main, 2 or 3 differences between the scenes?
So I think a main difference that is actually kind of widespread is the celebrity culture or the pseudo celebrity culture that is in North America.
Do you like
No.
that or dislike that? No, you don't like it.
I'm not too much of a fan of the pseudo celebrity. They're just, these top players are just people. So I definitely noticed a difference at Beast that there were no crowds, and maybe it was different when Mango was there a few years back. I don't know, but seeing the top players just kind of a little bit more relaxed, even just like their demeanors, seeing them around the venue. It's interesting for sure.
Yeah. I've never been to a North American tournament, and obviously you've not been to Heir yet. I'm saying yet because I'm hoping we'll see you this summer. But it's definitely something that as a TO I want to avoid. I don't personally like this idea of a celebrity culture around players, and kind of also for the top players themselves. I don't think it can't be particularly nice for them at times. I'd have to talk to a top player, maybe on a podcast, to delve into that a little bit further. But from a TO point of view, I like the idea of everyone being kind of treated fairly and just everyone made a little bit more accommodated and a little bit more relaxed. So why do you think in North America it's got to that point compared to EU?
I think just because maybe they're very accessible, the top players, because you see them at every other event. And if you're from like SoCal, you get to see all of your favorite players that got you into the game like all the time. So you're kind of always there and wanting to communicate with them. But then
do you think that makes you more comfortable to do it?
Yes.
Like you think it's okay to go out of your way to ask for an autograph or a photograph and so on?
Yes, exactly. And then I feel in Europe, because even though like it's exciting when they come over, you're kind of a little bit more respectful because they're not there all the time and they're not always easily accessible. So you're kind of just like, yeah, he's there. I'm really happy he's here, but I want to make sure I'm respectful and not bothering. So
yeah, which is actually a really cool point. It's something I hadn't thought about in that sense. Do you think maybe North Americans are a little bit more brash than we are across here?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Again, I've not been across to North America, but I know that at the likes of Beast and definitely at Heir, a Leffen may turn up or a Marta may turn up, but they're just another person. Like we had Leffen doing karaoke at Heir, which if you're listening to this, dig through the Team Heir Twitter account and you will find clips, mobile phone clips of the likes of Chu and the likes of Leffen with many other people, not just those, main players doing karaoke, but it didn't become a big thing. It wasn't like people were crowding around saying, oh, look at this, Leffen's, singing somewhat well, but yeah, which I like. I like the fact that like players can relax no matter who they are at events here. Are there any other differences, good or bad, between the scenes?
Differences, I think, depending on where you're from, or I guess this is actually a similarity, but the average level of skill, I think it's a little bit higher in the big regions in North America, and that's not to say anything bad about the European scene. I definitely I caught some hands at Beast, but I feel that there's a little bit of a more 20XX culture in the North American scene.
So you think the average skill level is higher in the North America?
Yeah.
Do you agree with that in terms of Canada as well?
Yes, I definitely do.
Interesting.
At least in Toronto. Montreal is debatable, but I think the Big House 5 crew battle where the Canadian crew stayed even with Europe and also beat NorCal. I mean, that was Kage magic. That's besides the point. But just the fact that they were even with the EU. So I would definitely include Canada in those talks.
Okay, and why do we think that is then? From what you've gathered in Europe, do you think a lot of the time we come down to this idea that it's harder for our communities to actually meet more often, travel wise. So for example, it'll happen at Heir, it'll happen at Beast, Eclipse, and so on, but it doesn't happen that often. Do you think that might be a reason behind it?
I actually would accredit the reason to weeklies. Talking with some of the people at Beast from like a bunch of random countries, but if they were telling me they're in a small scene, they didn't have weeklies, or they would only have monthlies. But like I mentioned earlier, I'm from Windsor, a city outside of Toronto, and there was a weekly there all the time, every single week, and there's Smash Fest. So I think it's kind of how often you're under tournament pressure and how often you actually get to play in tournament.
Yeah, more time you clock at something, the better you get at it.
Exactly.
I mean, no matter what we choose, from an instrument through to a sport, any hobby, you put the time in, you get better at it. By and large, obviously, mentality and coaching comes into it as well. So weeklies and actually more regular, larger events, I guess.
Yeah, I it's not to say anything against people's practice or going, like, I'm sure people train just as much here in Europe and people go to Smash Fest, but I think it's the actual tournament pressure that is kind of what separates it.
So there's kind of like two key differences there. Is there, just kind of moving this on a little bit, is there anything you feel like Europe needs to implement more from North America at our events? Or vice versa? Is there anything that maybe North America can learn from European events other than what we've already mentioned? And if there's nothing else, we can kind of shift on.
Yeah, I mean, I'll plug weeklies again, but in terms of learning from each other, I think some of the branding, they can probably collaborate a little bit more. I know Beast the trailer came out at, I believe it was Genesis 3, the first time the Beast trailer came, and I think that was really great, and I hope we can see more of that and just kind of see that we're really working off each other when it comes to advertising.
Yeah. See, I think the media is much further ahead in North America. What is going on in terms of, obviously there was Melee on Me, but now like the members of Melee on Me are now kind of doing stuff for Red Bull and so on. And there's a lot more tension and created and covered there. And we don't really have that in Europe. And as a head TO for Heir, and obviously I speak regularly to the likes of Mark for Syndicate and Howie for Eclipse, the French Melee lads and lasses, as well as the likes of Lolex for Beast. And there's definitely very, very little collaboration between North America and Europe. So where the probably North American TOs probably collaborate, there's no collaboration between European TOs and our events and America. Like the example you've given of the trailer is probably the only one that I could name off the top of my head.
Just to add to that a little bit also, at some of the bigger events, I know, for example, at Beast, there was a little bit of issues with what was off stream. But then you look at an event like Genesis, and Genesis has their stream. They had EMG, which is the Canadian stream, and just like kind of opening those doors to the other streamers to kind of put those side streams on. I think that might be interesting, but again, that's not really my expertise. So it's kind of just something, I'm just naming differences at this point, but I think that could definitely be something interesting.
So do you mean there should be more streams going on at our events, or bringing across other stream teams?
More streams by the more stream teams, right? Because I know a lot of people, it's different and like the content and wanting to make sure it's your own content, but I think just that kind of opens like that collaboration we were talking about. And I think that could be interesting, right? I don't want to go into examples because I don't want to step onto anyone's toes, but it's, you never know, right? It could be really cool.
I think any idea in terms of trying to get the two scenes and the two continents kind of working together more is something that we should definitely kind of pursue.
Yeah.
Saying that, I think we've kind of covered maybe some of the major differences and maybe what we could actually learn from each other in that sense. Kind of let's move on towards wrapping maybe the podcast up, if that's okay, Chad.
Of course.
A couple of things just to kind of close with, which is now that I know you're in Italy, this is kind of like my own little bugbear. Every year at Heir, Heir 2 and Heir 3, we're doing it again at Heir 4, which is the 17th to the 21st of August this year, is we do international crews, double elimination in national crews, 16 team bracket. this isn't done at any other event. Like, even the majors in America, it's never DE. So we put a massive amount of time and importance on this competition. And last year we had 15 countries, so nearly a full bracket. I've yet to have Italy compete. So if I go through some of the teams, we get the majors, the France, the UK, the Sweden, the Netherlands, the Germany, and then you get like the likes of Norway turning up, and then even down to the smaller countries, Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, although Northern Ireland have got some good players like Mint, but it's a smaller scene. Belgium, Switzerland, no Italy. So I want you to be the guy to get me a team at Heir.
I think I would love to see that. I think it's more of a factor of just getting a few just to be there first.
We just need 5.
Just 5. Just 5. I hope. I would.
That's your mission. Get me 5 Italians. Yeah, we'll claim you. You can be Italian for this. I want an Italian team. My aim for Heir 4. Italian team and a Finnish team. I still haven't got a team from Finland. Greece is there, but I don't think there's enough. I don't know. I think that's a little bit of a push, but
a little bit.
Yeah, you got 4 others to find, Chad.
I'll be pushing. I don't know if I'll still be in Europe then, but I will.
Oh yeah, you're going in May.
Yeah, so.
Oh, we won't even see you at Heir. See,
it's unfortunate.
You've let me down at the end of my podcast.
But I will advertise for you, and I will push for that, of course.
Yeah, cheers, man. Other than that, I guess that was my main comment at the end there. Is there any comments or anything you would like to raise before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a big shout outs to Geeky Goon Squad and Leva. I mentioned that the Italian tournament that I've attended was actually streamed by him. And that was Leva reaching out and just focusing solely on expanding the scene. And it's something I think we can all really look up to. And that's like, he's got my sub on Twitch until the last stream he ever does. It was really nice to see, and just he reached out and he decided to come, and it was just like exactly what we need in the scene. So I just wanted to give a big shout outs to him.
In terms of what we discussed earlier about the Italian scene and the kind of the better players or the leading players there and the established players there, were they in attendance at this tournament?
Everyone but Aldwin, and there was the other name, Elaine wasn't there.
Okay, so what was the name of the tournament?
Overkill.
So to the listeners, get yourselves onto YouTube, look up Geeky Goon Squad, find Overkill, the tournament, and do a couple of things there. Check out Geeky Goon Squad, subscribe to them on YouTube. I don't know why you wouldn't have if you're in Melee community anywhere globally. You should already be subscribed to that channel. Check out Overkill and have a look at the Italian talent. And then other than that, like you've just said there, Chad, I am a sub as well. Geeky Goon Squad and Leva do an absolutely terrific job. And recently have actually been saved by Pressfire. I don't know if you caught that.
I did, yes. I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's awesome. Large Norwegian media company who actually support Eclipse as well. And there's actually a brilliant article on Smash Europe for listeners, if you haven't caught this. It's Smash Europe's jury actually interviewing the Eclipse staff. So it's Howie and a member of Pressfire. And actually, I really respect the person from Pressfire and what they're trying to do in the Melee community. So the fact that they've stepped in to support Leva and support Geeky Goon Squad just shows their commitment. So check out that article if you haven't. Check out Geeky Goon Squad. I don't know why you haven't already checked them out, but Leva does a fantastic job. We're going to see him for the rest of 2017. He made an announcement that he is here for 2017. He's got a contract signed with Pressfire. And obviously, if you love Melee and you appreciate the fact that Leva's going out of his way to stream these events like Overkill, then get yourself onto Twitch, sub, and especially if you've got Amazon Prime. There's no reason not to. If you got Prime and you're not subbing, you're wasting it.
Yes, exactly. Like Mango says on his stream, thanks for the free money through Prime, right?
Other than that, Chad, is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, just I'm hoping that people are checking out my paintings, and I'm hoping people remember to come find me. I'm going to be at HF Land, so I'm going to be able to have some prints there, and I'm hoping people come find me. And yeah, I'm excited, and thanks again for having me on.
Of course.
It's nice to have a role reversal here instead of being the interviewer.
Yeah, so a few things to summarize there then. So if you would like to follow Chad, he's on Twitter at soda_SSBM. If you put Soda SSBM into YouTube, you'll find his channel. Give that a sub and look forward to his next painting and interview. I can't wait. Nightmare, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Other than that, find him at HF LAN. There's going to be some prints. Money match him.
Yeah, just look for the one in the Canadian hat, the Blue Jays cap. So
okay,
that's what I wear to all my tournaments now.
Chase the guy down with the Canadian hat. Get some money matches going. Although you may find that you lose some money.
You're getting wobbled.
Yeah, get wobbled. And other than that, if you've enjoyed this podcast, I would love to hear from you. So either track me down on Facebook, give me a kind of tweet at ConvoCone, and also it'd be nice to hear comments on the actual YouTube video. Other than that, thank you very much, Chad.
Thank you.
Okay, and have a good day.
You as well.
See you later.
Ciao.